We have a full house, full quorum. Thank you all for attending and responding, and glad we were able to make it. We have meeting minutes from April 11th that we need to review and approve. There's copies attached to the agenda.
It says July 12th. Those are actually.
Review.
Yeah, that's just a mistake.
I
That should
think
be April.
at the April 11th meeting, we reviewed it. We hadn't met, I think, since July of the prior year. No, 2021.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. This is the April meeting. Yeah, because I missed the June one. I did take the minutes and that's why I got confused. I'm like, I wasn't here. But you're right. That's a year ago. I should check my years when I look at these things. We don't meet that often. So this is correct for April 11th.
Yeah, these are the minutes where we reviewed the application for,
Brandon Roberts.
yes, the Hampshire Social. You folks need more time to review the minutes from April 11th? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
In a second,
Second.
all in favor?
I
Aye. Perfect. The second set of minutes is from June 6th, but there's not a copy of those attached. I guess that was the meeting that you weren't here. Okay.
Also someone else.
What should we do about the other meeting minutes, Josh? June 6th, we did not appoint a secretary.
Yeah, I forgot to take that off the agenda. So as far as I know, there are no minutes from that meeting yet.
Okay. We'll take that off the agenda. How's that?
Okay.
Old business, I'm just taking this in order. The wayfinding signs, I still have the paperwork. Well, actually, I think I might have given that to either you, Michelle, or Christine, and that was the paperwork that Dave Pizzolatto had compiled about the size of the signs based on the speed limit in the area and how large they needed to be. We'll just hang on to that until the time comes a little bit closer.
Okay.
The signs that were mounted, I know there was one right here on the corner by James Motors. I think those were detached and probably moved down to the maintenance barn or somewhere they wouldn't get damaged, but we'll revisit that as this comes to a closure. But other than that, has there been any developments on the wayfinding signs? Not that there should have been, I'm just bringing it up.
No.
Okay. We'll revisit. I'll be happy to sit with you guys whenever you decide to meet and, you know, walk around and we'll take an inventory of what we need to
Okay.
have.
Right.
But then I think we should,
So we'll need a current list of all the businesses,
okay,
churches and.
and hopefully there'll be some changes to that list,
Yeah.
some additions to that list.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on wayfinding? Next, we have a grant, facade grant from the cave. And do you all have a copy of that packet of their submission? Yep. I'm gonna use mine, I want to make notes on. I went down and met with Gina and Bob Pearson. They walked me through what's been done so far to date on their own dime last year. And it helped me understand and appreciate maybe where the catalyst began for them to apply. The grant application in general was more encompassing than originally they thought they were going to. Initially, they were just going to address a couple items on the building. And after they looked at it further and evaluated it, they decided to pretty much do everything that they could this first time around. Not that that's either here or there, but I met with them and walked the property. And some of the things that I asked were colors. This grant application includes a re-roof on the building. The shingles are in horrible shape. It's kind of an odd roof in that it's not equal in terms of the peak. It's offset, almost like a trapezoid or something. One side is super steep and one side is more gradual. I don't know why it was done that way, but it was. It's also, if I'm not mistaken, the more gradual and the larger the two roofs faces Washington, which captures more rainwater. There are no gutters on the building, so this is all part of the roofing, and now and I'll get into the runoff issue that's present. Apparently, according to the roofs or the Pearsons, they said that it ultimately, without gutters, has caused some damage to the sidewalks, some settling of the sidewalks. That's why the village went in there and applied some asphalt. They did an overlay right over the concrete because it was a tripping. Once you walked up to the curb, there was this much of a tripping hazard. So, but that's down the road, whatever they decide to do with the sidewalk. When I was out, they originally had planned to have all that runoff run to one end of the building, which would have been the west end where the alley's at. And in prior years, I recall how that alley would flood and freeze like every time. And now with them discharging their downspouts all to one end, which most of the time they don't recommend it. It's a long building.
Mhm.
You definitely want two. When I was out, they didn't really think about that, but I encouraged them to reconsider putting two downspouts, one at each end. But the concern they had is at the east end, there's nowhere to discharge it. It would have to discharge right on the sidewalk, which you know what's going to happen in the winter. So I asked them to approach Jay Hedges and the street department to see if there could be some working together in coordination of saw cutting the sidewalk in order to drop a drain line under the sidewalk and discharge right into the catch basin that's there. I got word today that the street department didn't have any concerns with that. Gina Pearson called me. So I just appreciated the fact that she responded and that they're going to do this now, because in my opinion, it definitely was needed. To do just one downspout it wouldn't handle it. It's a lot of runoff.
All right.
So that was the one issue or one suggestion that I had for them when I reviewed the application. You can see the asphalt roofing, the fiberglass shingles that are there. They're going to do a complete tear off down to the roof deck, new felt and new shingles. They're going to be 30-year architectural shingles, and I think they're going to be black. Currently, they look kind of brown on the street side or on the back side, I guess it would be. But whatever, they'll be black. New gutters and downspouts will be installed on the upper roof in both the front and rear of the building. So it'll capture all the rainwater on both slopes. No longer will it be just running down. I'm on this page where it shows the wooden awning. Currently, there are cedar shake shingles that are on there. And if you look at the first picture in the upper right, upper left, that awning has been clipped by delivery trucks multiple times. They've repaired it, it's been clipped. And one of the things I suggested to them, because they're planning on recovering the top of the awning, much like Peterson Propane did, where they wrapped it in a faux copper material, a metal. I said, that's great if you're going to do that, but you've got to solve the problem before you do that, because you know the village is investing in the building. They're going, support you in putting a copper roof on. So she called me today, and they're going to shorten it by 2 feet. So that'll eliminate this problem that has been at the property for quite some time. There are two awnings, one on the east side above this, I'll call it a side entrance, and then the one on the north side. They're both going to be wrapped in copper, is the plan. Similar to what they did with Peterson Propane. I'm just taking them in order. These are the photos of the masonry work, primarily on the east elevation. It's the side door or side entrance. The brickwork has a lot to be desired. It's pretty rough. And we talked about a number of different options, just stop pointing it, painting it, or staining it. And then they went over and talked to Randy Ross's son, the mason, and he looked at it and said, I'm going to take this apart and rebuild it. So the worst part of the wall will be disassembled, the bricks will be relaid, and they'll be all new mortar. So that'll solve that problem. I'm moving forward to what used to be Lido's Pizza on the alley. This bump out cinder block building currently needs to be scraped and repainted, and that's part of their proposal. It's nothing fancy, it's just cinder block. It's not brickwork. And then I mentioned that they had done some paint work last year. They rented a lift and they painted all the windows on the north side of the building. as part of this proposal and grant application, these windows that were covered over with plywood are gonna be painted to match. Because right now they're just kind of peeling and they don't look the greatest, but this will at least present the building in a much different light, I think. And then, on the south side, there is a fence that covers the garbage enclosure, and there is a masonry block bump out building. Those are both gonna be painted as well. Currently, there's a stairwell outside that goes up, and this wood is all raw and weathered. They're gonna be cleaning that up and then painting it. They're gonna replace whatever they need to, so that looks a little bit more tidy. This is the two entry doors. This is the one off of Maple, which is, I'll call it the side entrance, and this is the front door off of Washington. These doors were both trimmed and wrapped in solid oak. So due to the weathering, it's deteriorated the finish. They're gonna have them professionally sanded down, restained, and revarnished. So that's part of the proposal. This next photo is the corner where the alley is at. So that would be northeast corner of the building, I think, or northwest where the alley's at. There's a siding up here that was installed and it's come loose over the years from when they're gonna reattach that and fix all that. And then I think they're pressure washing because it's aluminum. I think the finish was okay. If anything else is included in that, it'll come up later. But this is, they have to address some of the loose soffit. There's also an opening up here at the end of the soffit where it terminates into the fascia on the gable end. There's a, I don't know if they get birds or what's up there, but they think critics, so they're going to close that up as well. That's part of the repairs. This is the north side of the building, looking up at the overhang on the second story. These are the windows that I mentioned were all scraped and repainted last year. They did it in two colors, kind of a purple and a black. That's the colors they chose last year, so they're going to continue with that theme in light of the work that they already did. I didn't have any concerns, but if you guys do, by all means, please mention it. The work that they're going to do on the soffit, apparently, I don't know if it was leaking or if it was condensation, but the underside of the soffit had white staining. They're going to have it professionally pressure washed and cleaned. They think it'll clean right up. This white residue that's up there. And these are the pictures after they redid all the windows, both on the first floor and the second floor of the north elevation, which faces Washington. And they showed me photos on the phone before and after. It made a big difference. It was very, very noticeable. I didn't notice it at the time, but the next is some of the pictures of them performing the painting work that they did. 2021, yeah, that was last year. They redid the shutters, and there's a diamond medallion over the windows on the first floor. Those were painted in accent color. And then you can see the difference between the shutters. This is the raw wood, how it had weathered, and this is them partially almost done with the restaining of the shutters. More painting, pictures, and then they did the two windows which faced east, and the ones below the awning. Yeah, here you can see the first floor is done, second floor was not. This is the before. More pictures, 2021. Okay, here is where the proposals begin. The first is for high course construction. This is for primarily the roofing. They're going to tear off the roof down to this roof deck and tear off all the shake shingles that exist on the two different overhang entrance roofs. If there's any rotten decking found, that's the the property owner's problem. Ice and water shield consistent with current code. Then they're going to apply felt, 15-pound felt, and then they're going to install new drip edge on the rake end, which is the triangular end, or in this case, it's offset. It's just metal drip cap to allow the water to fall off. There's the mention of the loose upper fascia and the siding on the northwest corner next to the alley that he's going to fix. Next is haul away the debris. He's going to change some of the flashing so that the water doesn't run down onto the brick wall. They pointed that out to me. Pro rib. This is the new copper roofing on the entrance roofs. Next is the 30-year architectural shingles. Next is the 5-inch seamless gutters that currently do not exist on both the front and the rear. And I had written next to it, this was my question when I reviewed this proposal, was discharge, because they currently have none. They're adding gutters where they don't exist. You need to, as part of the project, consider the runoff at the same time. And they've done that. Next is north and south side, 4 sets of downspouts, 2 and 2. Fix loose siding on the fascia in the upper corner of the building on the northwest corner, and permit. This proposal from iHorse Construction is $32,500. This is primarily the roofing, the metal on the re-roofing of the 2 overhangs, and then the gutter work. And they did get multiple bids before this. They had gotten a bid, I don't remember from who, but it was substantially more. And I think after they got this bid, this is why the scope of the project has increased. They were pleasantly surprised. That's why it's coming back to me. That's why it's inclusive of more. This is just information on the roof materials. Ice and water shield, starter strip. We don't really need this. This is consistent with current code. This is the product. The shingles that you will see, dual black is my understanding of what they're doing, what they're going with. So it's an IKO product, which is very common and reputable. Next, I have a bid from David Ross. The work that the mason is going to be doing is primarily on the east side of the cave, underneath that awning. It's to the left of the door. He's going to relay the brick on the southeast lower corner where they are falling out. Then he's going to tuck point the rest of the areas under the awning that have cracked mortar joints. So that's that. Next is painting, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. This includes the power washing of soffit fascia gutters. Well, there's no gutters on it. So he's probably so used to saying that. And the siding. Then they're gonna paint the exterior fencing around the dumpster, which you saw photos of already. Paint the exterior cinder block along the entire rear of the building. And then along the alley side where you saw the photo of all the paint peeling. This is the oak doors, the entry doors, sand restain the polyurethane oak trim and panels that surround both the front and side door. Next, item 5, scrape, caulk, and paint all upper exterior windows on the rear of the building to match the newly painted front and side windows. And item 6 is repair and paint the upper structure at the top of the stairs leading the flat roof. That was the enclosure I told you that needs to be buttoned up and then repainted. The proposal for this is $2,900. That is the third and final proposal we have. That's for the paint work. The masonry was $1,800 from David Ross, and the bulk of it is the roof from iHorse Enterprises for $32,500. The 3 items combined is a total of $37,200. And my understanding is that is the amount that will, not only those repairs are eligible, but that is the amount, the monetary amount that they're asking assistance with. A summary of working with them, they were receptive when we walked the building about shortening the awning by 2 feet, because at first they're like, oh, we didn't think of that. Adding the additional downspout into a discharge beneath the sidewalk so it doesn't freeze up. Apparently, I guess when it rains and there's heavy rainfall between Maple and Washington, apparently that corner of the street itself floods. This will allow the discharge to go right into the catch basin. I don't know if it's plugged up or what happens, but I wasn't aware of that. But when we talked about the discharge, that came up. So that's the bulk of what I recall in my discussions with Gina and Bob Pearson. At this point, are there any questions about the project or any of the 3 bids?
So we have more than one bid on most of these areas, or he received those?
I had seen
Who's the
some,
lowest bid or the one he thought was the most?
these are the lowest.
They are the
Yeah,
lowest.
initially when they got the re-roofing and the gutters, I want to say it was either 50 or 60,000. I'm guessing they just didn't want to do the job. But then when they talked to Vance about it, they had a long discussion and said, we need you to help with this. And overall, all 3 bids came in substantially less than what they originally were. And again, that's why the scope of the project has grown. Because initially they're like, we can't do this. So one of the other concerns that exist that this grant application won't address is the second floor windows. They are a mess. There's nothing up there, maybe some storage. My understanding, it's not heated. It's not accessible, ADA accessible. There's an exterior staircase. I said to them, I mentioned the windows and because that would be a qualifying application. And I said, and they're just overwhelmed with all of this. And I said, well, maybe if the program is funded again in future years, that's something that you could come back for. But the windows in the building really need to be addressed. In fact, on the south side, they've just been covered over with plywood because they're such a mess. So in some ways, yes, this is kind of a Band-Aid, just painting the plywood, but I think aesthetically, it's gonna look much better.
Any future plans for the brickwork?
No,
Because the
other,
brick is very, I mean, it's a great building. It's probably, I think, one of the nicest old buildings in town. So I think it definitely, we should help them to do as much as they can. But the brick is also very spotty. You know what I mean? Do they have plans down the road to do any staining or, anything on the brickwork?
we did talk about that now that you mention it, because Bob Pearson himself mentioned multiple times the Ford Garage, Roy's place, and how that turned out. Because there they stain both the mortar and the bricks. So it's uniform and all the same. And he was interested in that. This east wall next to the side entrance is one of the condition of it is pretty bad. They're crumbling and falling out. They're going to address the integrity of the masonry first. And he did mention that they were interested in possibly staining, but again, they were just elated with the fact the bids came in at what they did. They're able to do as much as they want. And I said, well, as long as there's no overlap or duplication, if the program's still funded, you can always come back at a later date. And they were like, thank you. That's great.
Okay.
All good questions.
So at 75%, that's the maximum that they'd be allowed. We would be looking at 27,900 if we recommended full funding project, but we're out of money. Are we
It's a
not?
big company.
Oh, they did, okay.
They sharpened the pencils.
27,900 maybe?
I think so.
I think so.
I let Jay know kind of the ballpark where the bids were coming in at, and he seemed to think that due to some other expenses coming in far less than they had anticipated, asking what those were. He said in this fiscal budget cycle, there may be funds in order to address this. So,
Squeeze one more in,
pardon me,
to squeeze one more project.
essentially,
Yeah, that's great.
so that'll ultimately be up to the village board to make that call. If the funds are there, after they talk to Jay and he confirms they are. So I said, yeah, we'll hear it. And I'm attending the BDC meeting on Wednesday to present this again. But yeah, I was excited because the building does definitely need some work. And to get them to jump on the bandwagon this year versus waiting another year, hey, great.
Absolutely. I think it's a very important job. It's,
Oh, absolutely.
Very visible on a corner, Maple and Washington, absolutely. And looking at all the other changes on Washington that have taken place, as well as State Street, I think this just complements the momentum, in my opinion, that between the village board and the downtown streetscape project that they've done and the support of this program. I'm like, tee it up one more, So, yeah, I was real pleased to see this. So,
It's good.
yeah, those were the only two issues I mentioned to them about the shortening the awning, and that's my notes. I have to write it down. Any further discussion about this grant application or any of the three proposals?
Questions?
I don't have any questions.
With that, I'll entertain a motion, based on the three bids, the total amount of their proposed project is $37,200.
Well, I would move to recommend what do they call it, project, the cave project, which has a total expense of $37,200 and is eligible for the 75% reimbursement from the village of 27,900, and we move forward on that.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Downtown's gonna look very different next year.
It is. It
Has there
is.
been any updates with like the coffee wine bar or anyone starting to move on?
I'd be happy to comment on those. Prior to today's meeting, I reached out for three. One was the Hampshire Social. That was about 2 weeks ago. I called, his name's Brandon. He just said to me, things are moving forward. Windows are ordered. Windows are ready to go in. But he didn't want to obviously have them installed with the streetscape project and all the concrete work that's being done for the sake of risking damage of any type. But he said, once they're to that point, they're going in. Other than that, they were going gangbusters on the interior with the code issues and things, electric and plumbing and all that. He says, oh, we'll be busy inside anyway. I don't think I asked him a projected open date, but he more or less said this fall sometime, a little bit later. We've got a lot to do. But he said it's going to come together quickly after the streetscape gets settled, and then they go gangbusters on the front of the building. Beyond that, he didn't have much more to talk about, which was fine. It was a current update. I called, I texted Dan Ramadani, the owner of the Rose Garden today, and last I heard he's out of the country, family illness or something. I was dealing with the son. This was about a week to 2 weeks ago. He had called me and said, I'm stepping in on behalf of Dad. He's out of the country. And I said, great. What can we do to move this forward? Tell me what you need from me. And he said, I'm just getting my head around the project. He wanted to confirm which bid was ultimately approved by the village board, because if you recall, we had like a number of different combinations of things. And I explained that to him. He had a question about the integrity of a brick veneer. And I explained to him, I not only called, but I met with the mason that's driving up from Central Illinois to do the work. And I too questioned the integrity of a brick veneer. I've seen it on residential homes that are wood frame constructed. And I'll just say, it's not a permanent solution. But his explanation to me when I met with him was, this is not a wood frame building, this is masonry. He said, we're going to eliminate all the loose mortar and loose bricks, and they're going to apply with Tapcon special fasteners, a steel mesh on the whole outside of the building. The complete south side, they're then going to apply a scratch coat of mortar for these bricks to be adhered to. And then lastly, the bricks themselves are real bricks. They're real bricks that are cut down and they're the same dimension. I think they're about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick. And then after those are applied, they come back and apply mortar in all the joints. And I said, you got a finished product. Let me see a picture. And he did. He sent me a picture of a building that they did down in Sterling or Rock Falls. And in that case, the upper half of the building was masonry and the lower half was wood. They tore the wood off, did this brick veneer on the lower half. And when they got done, I thought it was great. It was fine. They ultimately wound up painting it all, so it was consistent. But in terms of how it appeared as a masonry product, I was comfortable with it. And when he explained to me the process that they're going through with the steel mesh, the Tapcon fasteners, and the scratch coat, my concerns were laid to rest. His comment to me was, I think we'd be doing it if it wasn't going to last. He says, I don't do that. And when he explained to me the steps involved, I was like, okay, you've obviously done this before. So that's the update. I texted Dan Ramadani and just kind of said, where are we at? And he hasn't gotten back to me yet because he's out of the country.
Okay.
So the son was going to try and move things forward. I called the mason today. His name's Mr. Sosa. And I said, have you heard from Mr. Ramadani? And he said, no, I have not. And I said, have you spoken to the son? And he said, no, I have not. And I said, where are we at? And he says, you tell me. He said, I need to hear from the property owner. And he said, you understand the construction season is limited? I said, I sure do. Initially, when I met with him about a month ago, he estimated that this is a small project that he might be able to get to and possibly have it done by Coon Creek. Today, he clarified for me, no way. Not going to happen. He has since taken on 3 large jobs. So he said, it'll be before the winter, but he said, I can't tell you exactly when. He says, I still haven't heard from the property owner. I said, I get it. So that's the update on the Rose Garden. It's kind of on hold for the time being. And then what was the other pending project? Oh, blocks. I got a hold of Jeff Zopfi today and asked him when they intend to start, and he said they've made a selection on the stone, which I'm gonna have to go by and pick it up and bring it over here just to show everybody, but, the paint color is gonna be the same, the stone color, they've made a selection. And he said it's just a matter of scheduling the work now. He said, my mason is crazy busy this time of year. I get it. And he said the same too with the painter, but this is a project, he said, roughly 30 to 45 days to start. And I said, that's fine. With the timing and, there's too many wheels moving, it'd be nice, but we'll see what happens. So that's the update on the two pending projects, Rose Garden and Locks.
What's the latest on the streetscape? How is that going? Is that
Great.
behind schedule?
I think that on time, hey, Josh, are you listening in, do you care to comment on the progress of the streetscape project in the downtown and how it's coming along?
Sure. So as you all saw today, they've got a lot of concrete down. They have their asphalt people, I believe, coming in by the end of this week to put in those sections where the concrete and the old asphalt, there's a few sections between. So they're going to fill that in. They've got landscaping to do still. And they talked about potentially doing some of that work tomorrow, some of the bringing in some of the fill for the landscaping tomorrow. So it looks to be, on schedule, if not a little bit ahead of schedule. They, for the last couple of weeks, have been talking about opening up the street to traffic again before the end of July. So, maybe next week or sometime the week after. But we have a weekly meeting with the contractor and with our department heads every Wednesday morning. So we'll get another update from them this week. But it seems like everything's moving along very well. There was a little bit of concern. There's been some strikes going on with some of the unions, specifically the rock quarries. So that was a concern with concrete and everything. But the place that we're getting the place that our contractor is getting their supplies from is not affected. So we haven't had any kind of issue like that with streetscape. We're gonna go to the weekly or bi-weekly, every other week meeting for the Route 72 project on Wednesday as well, and see if they're still on schedule, especially after the weather. But so far, streetscape is looking pretty good still.
Are we still in laying the old brick at the crosswalks? Or?
No, it's just color. I don't think it's standard, it's just color.
There was discussion of salvaging some of the bar pavers from the street that they might be installed at the base of the clock on the one corner.
That's right.
Is that the case, or is that no longer an option?
No, that is still the case. I believe that they still intend to do brick in some way. I can't remember if the last design I saw is the one that was approved, but some not the whole thing, but some significant portion of it to be brick. And then there's going to be an inlay. I think it's about a 10 or 12 inch circular, nice looking thing with the New Village logo and everything on it. So there's going to be an inlay there as well at the base of the clock. So it should look very nice right there.
Any update on the production, manufacture, and delivery of the streetlights?
I haven't heard anything since our last meeting that they're still just waiting for them to ship. They did put in the bases, and they put our old lights on the new bases so that whenever the lights do come in, we can just do a swap relatively easily. So there will be street lights over, there just won't be the new ones yet.
Understood. This is, of course, probably premature at this point, but would you happen to know if the proposal for those streetlight standards includes the mounts for the Village Chamber of Commerce banners that were previously mounted on the streetlights?
I think so, but I don't have the spec for the bid at my fingertips here. But I can check in and let you know.
That'll be fine. Just something we'd like to keep on the radar. I think Jeannie had mentioned earlier, an ideal place, and I agree, would be for those banners to be reinstalled in the downtown area where this festival block is going to be. They're seasonal and they change them out, and what a great place if we can incorporate those in the light standards.
Yeah, I I imagine that if it's not in the bid itself, that that's something our streets department could add on, but I'll check on that and let you know.
That'd be great. Any other questions about the streetscape project or any components of it?
Sounds great.
Thank you for the update, Josh. It looks wonderful down there. Every time I see it, it looks better and better. It looks great. It'll be exciting, when they get it all done and they open it up.
It's not going to be before. Sounds like it.
Um,
Think it's not?
when you say it, well,
Like
the traffic, I think,
At
would
least
be
flow.
opened up, but there's a lot of finished elements. The streetlight standards have to be produced and shipped, and then, the landscaping might be well on its way, but other than that, there'll still be some loose ends. And then we have to do wayfinding signs, of course. We were talking earlier, Josh, about the wayfinding signs, and we plan to revisit that after the streetscape project gets a little bit further along. We'll inventory the businesses and where we think signs might need to be located, and then we'll start talking about the posts and the sign standards that are either cord or surface mounted to the masonry, the sidewalks after it's in. So that's on our radar if you talk to Jay, but we were just gonna kind of table that until the project's further along.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Okay. There's no public here, so unless someone wants to make a comment, other than that, I don't have any announcements.
Does, I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe it's not a question for now, but has the BDC, are there any more prospects for businesses coming in to any of the vacant buildings? Have we talked to any of the owners?
Good question. Josh, do you care to, or Ryan, do you care to comment on the prospective businesses that might be in the works, or is that more a question for Jay?
I guess I'll start by saying that I don't think we've had any prospects in the last, month or so. A while back, we had somebody looking at Palazzolo's, and I don't think that went anywhere when it got time for the private negotiation. So if you hadn't heard, there is, I believe, an Italian restaurant going in on North State Street over on the left side, the west side of North State Street. So that should be coming. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything new for the downtown area. I think so. Tony Ramadani was working with someone, I think, but then he had to go back down. I can't remember where we had to leave to go to for a family illness. So he's been gone for a while. We haven't heard from him in a few weeks. So other than that, I got nothing.
Kudos, Village Board and Administration on 2 counts. One, the newsletter. I read it every time I get my water bill. I don't look at the water bill, I look at the newsletter. And I saw the announcement in there about the new Italian restaurant and the time frame, and it's gonna be dine-in, and those kind of updates I love. I think they're fantastic. I don't know if anyone else. The other comment I had is the wayfinding signs or the directional downtown business signs that are still open. Every time I turn a corner, I see a new one. Out on 72 and French Road, there's one. Washington, where I terminated, whatever, go to the post office, there's a sign there. Every time I turn around there, I see more signs. That's fantastic in support of the downtown businesses. You guys are doing an awesome job with that. I don't know who's responsible, but my hat's off, kudos to them.
Yeah, I think Jeannie had a part in that, so you might thank her too.
Thank you. Well done. A lot of thought and a lot of time put into that. I can
Jay
see.
and Michelle also
Yeah.
drove around.
Excellent. Well done.
Yeah, the village has been great working with us on.
Yeah, it's been really.
Yeah, making it clearer for people coming to the downtown area. Because that's what I find is people are just like, where do we go? How we get around, but it's coming to an end, so
Yes. So,
that's good.
good deal. Any other discussions or questions? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to, what is the word? Dismiss? No, adjourn.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I motion to dismiss or adjourn, whatever.
All the above and a second?
A second.
Okay.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are all set. It is 7:40.
Wow, very efficient.
Yes.